Hey guys, it's Stardust and welcome to my worm training video. So we're going to just jump right into things. When it comes to tight spaces, you want to use your laser, so you just hold down R or push KK and it'll lock it for you. You want to always get in the habit of utilizing snakes around you to squeeze or cut off ones that are threats, like this one. He was trying to wrap me, but didn't really think it through. So in this case, this is actually a really good example of face shots. He only has one exit, so I'm going to block it off, but I'm going to make myself to where I'm not vulnerable. I'm going to scoot in real quick and then turn back out so that he doesn't run into my face. When it comes to being wrapped, don't just think it's over. Think how the snake's thinking. They want to close this gap to get a tight wrap on you. So sometimes they make their face vulnerable and you could just cut them off. Also remember that when you're smaller, you're faster, so you can normally shoot out and cut them off pretty quick. So this is a really fun instance of when Buns and I were playing against each other. He was going to try to cut me off right there, and now he's going for the wrap, but I'm going to close this gap so he can't turn around, which he thought about. And then he's going to go through, and I'm just going to try to snipe him. It wasn't successful, and I have to understand that Buns is a good player, so he's going to use his laser. So you have to continuously go in to really close that gap so he can't get through. So for this next move, just understand that snakes need a certain perimeter in order to turn around, and if you cut that off, they're going to die. So to elevate your slither game, this is the bread and butter move, the one that Flashy and I love to perform all the time, and that's getting into the curvature of the snake during their turn. So as you can see, even a 33K snake can cut off a 4K snake by slipping into that little nook. And most of it is just about predicting where the snakes are going to go next. I probably could have gotten that big snake up there, but instead I just go for the smaller one. Now this snake wants to turn up, but he realizes I'm there and he's going to turn around. He doesn't have an exit out up top, so I'll assume they're going to want to go back in the same direction and I'm going to shoot up and cut them off. So it's back to our favorite face shots. Snakes at this point can go one of two ways. They can turn in or they can turn out. If they're really good, they'll turn out, but most snakes tend to turn in. And you can cut them off. But you're going to see in this next clip, Buns is going to be going up against the house. Now, Buns is going to go in thinking that the house is going to turn inward, but the house is smart like Buns. He knows he has an outer option and he's going to take it, and then Buns is unfortunately going to die. And this is me making the very same mistake of assuming Apophis is also going to turn in. He's a really good snake, so I should know better, and of course I die. Another big understanding in this game is that you should follow the snakes and not the food. For instance, this food right here, yeah, it's great, but you can have better. You can cut this snake off who thinks you're going after the food and eat them as well. So here I'm looking at the snakes. This green and blue one looks really slow, so I'm going to try to cut him off. Okay, I'm going to eat the food. I'm going to understand that target is going to want to circle me, so I'm going to go up. He's not expecting it. He's going to try to turn up. I'm going to cut him off. And then I'm going to come down. Look at the next big snake, which is the gray one. He's going to turn in, realizes he doesn't have an exit. So I'm going to cut off his exit. And then finally, I'm not going to go up right here because these two snakes will cut me off. So I'm just going to keep going straight because it's not about the food at this point. It's about surviving. So at this point, I'm thinking about the big snakes I can kill, not just at the food that's available. So boom, that one. Right here, I know I can't go down. I'm just going to keep going up because this big snake's not going to have anywhere to go. I'm just going to cut him off. So in this next clip, you have a snake that's wanting to turn in. He realizes a little too late. So as he goes to turn out, he runs into me. Now, yes, there's lots of food, but you could have more, right? So this blue snake is trying to go after the food. I'm going to try to cut him off. I probably could have, but I was unsuccessful. So I'm going to keep following it. He thinks I'm still going after the food. He's going to go down. I'm going to cut him off. So again, follow the snake, not the food. Yes, there's a lot of food available, but there could be more because the snake's coming down. So I'm going to squeeze him and cut him off. And then look at all this food, but don't settle, maximize. I'm going to cut off this 10K snake and give myself even more. So yeah, a lot of these positions can be really intimidating, these situations, but take your time, slow down, and make the tightest turn you possibly can, and you'll do fine. So right here, you think he's going to cut me off. He's not willing to jab in closer, so I'm just going to take the time, circle slow, and then get out of it. So racing other players takes a lot of time to master. You always have to be ahead of them to cut them off. Right now, I think I'm ahead, but if Buns turns out, I lose that advantage. And if I keep turning in, he's going to have the advantage and he'll be able to cut me off. So here's another good race. We're neck and neck. He has the initial advantage, right? And we keep crossing forward, but he keeps turning outward. And at this point, I'm going to keep going straight just to gain that slight advantage, that slight lead, and I'm going to use it to cut him off. If a snake slows down to eat, I'll do this little like U-turn and I'll come back down quickly and shoot down and try to cut them off. So in this race, I get as close as possible to see if I have the lead before I shoot over. As you're going to see here, closing this big gap is going to take away this big snake's lead. So when he tries to cut me off, he's unfortunately going to fail because overcoming it is going to put him behind. So constantly thinking about utilizing snakes around you, especially if you're racing somebody, you want to squeeze them. If another snake comes up, boom, you can cut them off. I really wanted to cut off this big snake and eat him all to myself, but he didn't turn outward, so I have to follow them up. I'm realizing at this point I have a lead, so I'm going to just try to push this big snake into another one, and then boom, there's all this food. But at the same time, is that enough, or could you have more, right? This purple snake was going towards the food, so I'm going to cut them off as well. So part of this awareness of other players is being aware of your own teammates. I saw Bear pushing the snake outward. I made a gesture that I would move out too, and when he adjusted, I adjusted and I moved in and was able to cut him off. And then I'm going to go down because I don't want to cut off Bear on accident. So as you get accustomed to your teammates' play styles, you'll realize who's constantly thinking in terms of pairing or doubling up in order to take down bigger snakes. Buns and I think a lot alike when it comes to like targeting these big snakes. As you see here, Buns is 55K, and there's this 20K player that we both are like, oh yeah, we definitely want to go after them. I'm going to surround the top portion. Buns is going to safely come around me to try to create this circle. Now, when I come down, I want to get as close as possible because Buns, even though he looks really large, he still has to have the length to be able to circle both of us. So as I come to this bottom, I'm going to cut off Pro's exit, but I'm just going to stop right there and turn inward and make these like constant loops so that I minimize the amount of space I take up. So Buns will it'll ensure that Buns will have enough length to circle us both. Now, I'm gonna come in to just block off the last attempt that Pro might have at an exit. And then sometimes you'll survive and you'll be able to kill the player on the inside, but others it's just a matter of sacrificing yourself to the cause. So this portion is not necessarily teaming. It was me protecting Buns, which is a common thing when your teammates circling. You want to protect their outside. Luciana and I are going after the same food. I know she's going to have to turn out at some point, so I'm going to race her to it. Okay, so let me just say, this snake is super annoying. That said, I'm pretty sure it's Enforcer, but that said, he's got an exit here. If he goes down, I'm obviously going to cut him off. So he's going to take advantage of the space I created to circle. However, Buns knows that we have an opportunity here to circle the snake. Now the whole top portion is covered up, right? So my job is to ensure that he can't get out of this last little space he has between like Buns and I. So I'm going to cover that. Buns is going to completely encircle us. And then this is the part where I said, you know, you can try to just battle the snake in the middle if you'd like. Otherwise, the person on the outside can just continuously tighten the gap, and then they'll eventually die. So yeah, we're not supposed to incog and team at the same time, and I acknowledge that. But as I was warming up, I noticed the worms trying to go after this really big snake, and I didn't want to let them down. So when I saw this big snake trying to turn down, I turned down to show him that I would cut him off if he continued in that direction. Because he's really big, he would be really slow, and I would win that like race. Now he's going up. Rel's turning down right here to minimize the amount of space this worm has to turn. He's turning in. It's going to be a long, slow process, so I'm going to just jump forward to cut him off. He does try to readjust, but it's too late because he's just too big. So this next one's a pretty fun one. Unfortunately for Dev, he's wrapped, but it's our job as teammates to respond when our friends are in trouble. So as you see, Flash responded as well, but she's kind of too big to do anything at this point except potentially wrap the snake that's wrapped Dev. I can kind of do a little bit more getting into smaller spaces, and I noticed that this big snake likes to stick his head out to eat, and so I'm assuming he's going to go for this food in front of me. When he does, he thinks he's just going to turn back in quick, but I'm faster since I'm smaller, and I'm just going to cut him off, ultimately saving Dev. So here's one where we're going after Puppet Master. Ideally, we're going to try to squeeze him, but he takes advantage of that small space to turn around. Now you'll notice that Buns would have the whole bottom covered if he tried to go back down. He knows his only route is up. I do too, so I'm going to cut him off. So here, Flash is aware that I'm trying to circle this big snake, and she's just going to prevent them from escaping by cutting off that exit. Again, you're going to be aware of your teammates and what they're trying to accomplish. I see that this kill is possibly going to escape, so I'm going to make sure I cut them off. So another big part of teaming is not just saving your friends when they're wrapped, but preventing them from being wrapped as they wrap. So I'm going to just do whatever I can to prevent snakes that are capable of wrapping Buns from wrapping him while he's focused on wrapping the snake inside of him. Here I'm trying to just cut off the snake in some way. I can't do it alone. Buns sees what I'm trying to do. Buns is going to follow him down, and as this snake tries to get out of the wrap, Buns is going to cut him off. And lastly, I see Flash is trying to wrap this snake. I'm just going to prevent them from exiting her wrap. She goes a little high. This snake thinks he's going to be able to jet out, but I just go down and cut him off. And that concludes our very first training video. I hope it helped, and I'll see you guys out there.